Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Always Connected podcast. I'm very excited about this live show. I'm trying a little bit of a different format. Going live is always interesting because we have to deal sometimes with technical glitches and such, and we never know what's going to come out of our mouths. But I just did a prayer that Spirit inspire every word out of my mouth and those of our guests so that you will be inspired as well. Our topic today, you ready? Let's talk angels. I have to tell you that as a retired Navy commander, when I first started down this spiritual path, I didn't believe in spirit guides. I didn't know about angels. I really didn't know if angels were real, but Spirit has a way of making sure we pay attention. And let's see, which book did I share it in? Maybe Making the Afterlife Connection. I shared my story about angels are real, how Spirit showed me with irrefutable evidence that we are not alone here, that there are higher beings with a bigger, wider perspective than ours that are here to help us, to keep us safe, to inspire us, and to let us know how loved we are. So this time, instead of bringing on people that I haven't heard from yet, I wanted to make sure that we had some really great stories. We all have good stories, but I wanted those that will make us go, wow, and resonate with these stories. And so I put out a call by email to those of you who are on my podcast email list. And I asked for your angel stories. And so I need to start right off by thanking all of you who submitted a story. The love that I felt coming from those emails was tremendous, phenomenal. And the challenge is I couldn't bring all of you online. So some of you gave me actual signs of stories of signs from loved ones, and I'm going to ask you to resubmit that because we're going to do a show, Let's Talk Signs from Loved Ones, and then we're going to do Let's Talk Spirit Guides, interspersed throughout our normal Always Connected format, where I bring you on live with questions about a certain topic. But again, my apologies for not being able to use all the stories. What I did for today was do what I always do and ask Spirit, which of all these wonderful submissions will be best for the show. So it was a Spirit thing. I just looked for the ones that snagged me. So please don't be hurt if I didn't bring you on here. We're just trusting Spirit that this is unfolding the way it's supposed to. But I will tell you that one common theme throughout the emails that came in were how many of them were people that heard a voice that guided them to either stop or do something at just the right moment to avoid disaster. And I do believe we have a couple of those today. But as you listen to the stories today, I bet you anything, you all will remember your own instances. So go out and share that at the dinner table today, or share it with friends that you're gathering with after the show, because the more we celebrate and acknowledge that angels are real in our lives, the more those kinds of experiences come up again in our lives. This is all a dance with Spirit, and it's wonderful to acknowledge our role in this dance. So let's see. Did I say everything that I wanted to see? Yeah. I'll just chit chat with those who come on. I have a couple of my own stories that will work in here. But in the meantime, lovely to see all of you in the live chat. We absolutely love reading those comments and feeling the loving energy from our Awake and Wake community. So let's start. Our first guest that I'm going to bring on is, let me see, your name isn't showing up on screen, but it's Janette. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome. So go ahead.
My story happened a few years ago, and I don't have my voice quite yet, so
we're good.
Forgive me. Anyway, it happened a few years ago. I and a friend were traveling on Interstate 84 in the Columbia River Gorge, headed for a hike. It was a overcast day and raining a little bit. I was in the far right lane. We were headed east. There was a westbound lane with a concrete barrier separating us. Well, the car ahead of me suddenly braked. I didn't know why, but they braked. And I tried to brake my car, but nothing. And then I
Ooh.
felt my car hydroplane a little bit. I hadn't experienced it before, but my car hydroplaned a little bit and lifted, kind of started to sway.
Oh boy.
And I realized that I and my friend hadn't buckled our seatbelts when we stopped for coffee. And
Huh.
so I said to her, buckle your seatbelt and hang on.
Hmm.
And I looked around me, and there were cars all around me to the left and behind me. And I realized I didn't want to get all of these people involved in a serious accident. Um, so to my right was a rock wall, and I turned the steering wheel as far to the right as I could, and on the shoulder of the road. And the next thing I knew was silence in my car. I thought I died. I really thought I had closed my eyes when I went into the turn, and I could
Wow.
feel myself turning, and I really thought I had died. But my friend brought me back, to consciousness by saying, "You sure work your angel overtime." And when I looked down at my car engine, it had stalled out, but the key was still turned on. So I turned it off, and I looked out the window, and there were branches on the shoulder, but I hadn't hit any of them. And we both got out of the car, and we went around to where the person who had stopped the traffic had pulled over. And I noticed that we were well within the shoulder line, perfect within the shoulder line, as if we had parked that way. And the person in the car said that their trailer hooked onto their car has started weaving, and they apologized for causing such a problem. And it's indelibly printed on my mind. And my friend, she had a stroke 3 years ago, and a lot of her memory is on. But I called her yesterday, and she did remember this. She recited it practically word for word what I am saying as well. And another thing is, I'm pretty sure she was praying, but not audibly in the car. So
Yes. Yeah. But I love how you described it beautifully, with obstacles all
that's
around,
my
completely out of your control, and your friend just looks at you
story.
and says, "Your angels are working overtime," and just somehow ended up in just the right place and didn't hurt anybody else. So, boy, grateful to the angels for that one. All right, you're skipping in and out there, Janette, but thank you so much for coming on to share that one. That gave me the goosebumps right off the bat, everybody. How about you? As I'm hearing that story, and it reminds me that every time Ty and I would get in the bus to get on the road for our road trips, he would buckle his seatbelt, and he's not really as into the spiritual path as I am, but he'd turn to me and he'd say your thing. And I would say, "Angels, please protect people, pets, and property, and get us safely to our destination, as well as those around us." Every time. And he was then like, "Okay, now we're good to go." So anytime I get in the car, I hope all of you do the same. I say, "Angels, please get me safely to my destination." So beautiful story. Thank you, Janette. All right, everybody, like you can see on the screen, we're talking angels with real stories from all of you, and we are live. If you're watching April 19th, I think today is, April 19th, 2026. If you're not watching, still some good stories that you can come back to anytime right here on this show. So next up is Judith, a very different kind of story. Scoot over a little so you're in the center. There we go. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. My pleasure. Well, I had an interesting angelic experience 39 years ago, and it's still as fresh as the first day. It was in 1987. I was just starting to see a new beau. I was divorced after
boyfriend, huh?
Yeah, boyfriend. Yeah, he was the boyfriend at that time. And I had just gotten divorced a few years before and had planned to never marry again. And so boyfriends were okay, but I wasn't going to have anybody tell me what I couldn't do and where I couldn't go.
Okay.
But we had a lot in common, and we had agreed. Yeah, I was a new psychotherapist. He was a seasoned psychotherapist and an artist. And we had agreed that we believed we were bridge makers in this world, from the way it is to the way it's going to become. But the only thing we had in mind was to continue being psychotherapists. And so we did that. But circumstances happened that we did. Well, I'm jumping ahead. Let me tell you what happened when we were just courting. I was asleep, sound asleep, and I was awakened at 3 a.m. with a vision of a beautiful angelic being. And I say that simply because she was a light being hovering above me.
So you
And
were completely awake and your
I
eyes
was,
open.
no, I was completely asleep. And I opened my eyes to see her, see if I could see her, and I couldn't see her. So I closed my eyes and I could see her.
Oh,
And
cool.
then opened and she was gone. So I thought, well, I want to experience her because she had a very loving presence. And I wanted to experience what she was there for. So I closed my eyes and conversed with her, asked if she was human, if she had ever been human. And she said no.
Huh.
And I asked if, what was the next thing I asked? Oh, if she was male or female. And she said neither.
Oh,
And the
lovely.
reason I call her she is because she was so loving. She was so loving and gentle. And so I just closed my eyes because I wanted to to experience her. So what she did is she showed me an image, and it was an image of a book. The title of the book was Gentle Messages from Another World. And it had a mandala on the cover. It was fiery, it was orange and moving. And that was the image. And I got that I was to write this book from messages that I got from Spirit. I just call my messages from Spirit because I don't always know who it's from, and it doesn't matter. I know it's Spirit and I know it's guiding me. So, so Bob and I were not planning to get married anytime to anybody soon, but we ended up getting married within 2 months.
But you skipped the part that you wrote about. She had a message about your relationship.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. She
Yeah.
said, the two of you will achieve more together than either of you will apart.
Huh.
And so that was telling me that, you know, we needed to be together to be bridge makers. And
Yeah.
so we did get married, and we have always worked together. We started working as psychotherapists. We ended up both being ministers. We'd both had training to be ministers, but we did that for decades. And I just retired, as a matter of fact.
And I saw Bob in the background helping you with the technology. So it's
Oh,
still
yes.
very
We've
much.
always been helpmates
Yeah.
with everything we do. In the beginning, I used to edit his writings. He does beautiful writings.
Well, let me
And
get back to the angels so we can get lots
yes,
more guests to come in. But I just want to say, at what point did you tell Bob that this angel came and said you're supposed to be together?
the next morning.
Oh, wow. Oh, cool.
The next
And
morning.
his
He's
response?
the only one I could tell. Nobody else would believe me.
Well, right there it shows compatibility. What was his response?
He
Oh,
didn't say much. He didn't
just-
say,
okay, well, it worked out okay 39 years later, right?
Yes, 39 years later, right?
I bet there are just so many people right now who have experienced your ministry together and are thankful to that angel. So thank you for sharing that story. It's awesome.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And
Can't
your last,
tell everybody.
so you have some books out there?
I have a new one.
Yes, we do. Bob has a new one that's
Okay,
really
how do people find the books? What's your last name?
Diary of a Mindful Dog.
well. The one he has published for a long time is Diary of a Mindful Dog.
Oh, I love
You would
it.
love that.
Okay.
And what's the new one, Bob?
Mindful Words.
Mindful
mandalas.
Words and Mandalas.
Okay, so
And
you're Janette.
on Amazon.
What is your last name?
My last name is Churchman. His is Luckin.
Okay.
Because we always work together, I didn't want to have his last name.
Okay, well, that's great. I'm sure some folks will check out your book, and thank you for coming on the show. All right.
Bob Luckin. Thank you.
Right. Speaking of books, that sounds like a setup, doesn't it? I know many of you have already ordered my upcoming book, Always Connected. Isn't that the name of the podcast? How to find comfort, clarity, and direction from the spirit within. This is the point of the whole Awakened Way path, going within to find the answers that we need and listening. I love how Judith engaged that angel when she sensed it. The 3 E's of the Awakened Way are awakened living, right? Are educate yourself with programs like this about the greater reality and your role in it. Experience for yourself in moments of contemplation, out in nature, self-inquiry, and what Judith did so beautifully, engage any presence that you sense in real-time conversation, the spirit within, engage it. So that was beautiful. So check out Always Connected. Go to my website, SuzanneGiesemann.com. We're having a promotion right now where you get some bonuses that are worth more than the cost of the book. You don't want to miss that. The book comes out June 2nd, 2026. But if you order now, you get those bonuses. So I know you're going to love that one. The energy's off the charts. So speaking of energy, our next guest, what do you have to bring to the show, Lisa?
Hello. So I have one of the advantages of having my mother pass so early is that I've been very open to experiences, and I've had several angel experiences, but this one had a witness and this one had evidence. So my wife and I were traveling on a very busy highway. It was very crowded. We were on our way to Virginia, and I had been driving for several hours, so I was already kind of open to a kind of a trance-like state. And I just all of a sudden this kind of peace and calm came over me, like I was just suddenly entered into a bubble. And I hear, "All will be okay." And I look over to my right, and there's a car with just so much stuff packed on top of it, and this very large child seat comes flying off of the car. And I look around, I have a split second, and I have no time to do anything. I can't slow down, I can't move the lane. It was just really packed. And as soon as I see it flying, I know it's going to hit us. I just know it. And the calm came back to me, and I heard again, "All will be okay." And I realized that I can't react in fear. I can't react at all. I just have to allow this very large item to come flying at us. And so
That's
I
a
just
lot of
sat there.
presence. That takes tremendous presence to say,
Y-
I can't panic, but you were forewarned. I love this. Keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, also because there were so many cars around us, I knew I just couldn't, it would cause a huge accident if I had done anything, because we were just so packed together. And so it's coming flying at us. And of course, my wife was looking at the map, and I was at a split second. I thought, you know what, she's just going to be afraid. We're just going to do this. And so it's coming at us, and I could see it's about to impact. And at the very last second, it's like a big hand came down and just whoosh, and it hit the hood of the car and then went right over top of us and into like a breakdown lane with all kinds of garbage that was on the left-hand side. And it was just like, it was so crazy. And when I had to pull off the road, I was like, finally, it lifted from me, and I was so grateful. I said, "Oh my gosh, the angels just saved our lives." And so I worked right across the street from my mechanic, and when we got home, the mechanic came over, and he looked at it, and he said, "Lisa," he said, the size of the dent and the impact of that car seat, if it had hit the windshield, we would have died." And so I was just so grateful. But it was just so amazing the way it was like it wasn't a hand, but it was almost see it coming down and just whacked it right into the hood instead of coming into the windshield. So
Oh,
yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And as I hear your story, there are almost all of us can recount or know of stories of other people that weren't in experiences like that. We want to say weren't so lucky. I don't think this is luck. We just have to trust that there is a time for all of us to pass, and that wasn't your time. And other people that do pass in accidents like that, then they're doing things across the veil that are helping us in ways we just don't even know.
Mm.
So that is a beautiful story. I'm going to thank you for coming on. Okay.
Yes. Thank
And
you.
really great to see you again. As I take you off the screen, I got to share with you a similar story that I heard when I got to teach a retreat at Unity Village in the center of the country. 3 of the ladies told me, so that we have witnesses just like Lisa shared there. They were riding from the airport to Unity Village, and one of the women said, "Angels, please protect us," on our trip to Unity Village. As they're going down the highway, all of them saw this giant black rock fly out of the back of a dump truck that was right in front of them on the highway. It was coming right at the windshield, and it split into 3 and went around the car in a slipstream. But there was nothing visible to have caused it to do that. Woo! nothing visible except the invisible realm taking over. We can call that angels, huh? Really, really great stories. I hope you all are enjoying these. We have quite a few more. Let's see if some other folks came in. No, we're still waiting for some folks that I invited but hadn't come in yet. But in the meantime, let's bring Jill on.
Oh, hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
Jill, where are you coming from today?
I live in Derbyshire in England.
Okay, awesome.
But the thing that happened, which is about 30 years ago, it was in Brighton, which is on the south coast of England. I was visiting somebody there.
Okay. Oh, I have a Brighton story to tell when you're finished. Okay.
Yeah, I could have lots of Brighton stories, but this particular one, I was just walking in a fairly quiet part of town. There really wasn't anyone about. There wasn't a lot of traffic. It was a quiet middle of the day time, and I went to cross the road, but I went to the pedestrian crossing, pressed the button, waited for the green man, and I actually stepped out into the road. I took one step. I was wearing a backpack, smallish backpack at the time. What it felt like was that my backpack somehow, it felt like my backpack had got snagged on, it sort of pulled me back.
Huh.
And almost at the same moment, a car came seemingly out of nowhere, very, very fast, way over the speed limit, and went straight through the red light. If I had carried on when I stepped out, I mean, it would have hit me, probably killed or seriously injured.
Wow.
And I didn't really know what had happened. I sort of turned around thinking somebody must have pulled it, and there was just nobody around. There was no physical explanation.
There was.
Well, not that I could see.
That's right.
I couldn't see. There was nothing for my, there just wasn't any reason. And it was also, this whole thing happened in the space of a couple of seconds. So there wasn't time for somebody to have pulled me and then gone.
Right.
And
Sure.
there was just nobody there.
Yeah, that is awesome. I love it. And it reminds me so much. Here's another story. So I'll tell my story, and I can feel the frustration of some people who are joining us now because they have a story. They want to share it too.
Yeah.
But just like you was going, walking, it's a different story from yours, but similar thing, going into my garage, which was 5 steps down from a doorway. And I went down the first step, but I wasn't paying attention. And I pitched forward. I was going to go head first onto a concrete floor. And something grabbed me and pulled me backwards, standing up straight. Physically, with the laws of gravity, what happened was impossible for me to be pulled backwards and stand there. And I just stood there and said, what just happened? But unlike you, Jill, I don't know. At the time, I didn't believe in angels. I was still on active duty with the Navy, and I just stood there. That was weird. Now I know. It's just like you. Did you think angels at the time?
Well, at the time, I had a Tibetan ritual Vajra in my bag, which was very heavy. And I thought somehow it was to do with the power of the Vajra pulling me. But I didn't tell anybody about this for years and years because I thought, well, they won't believe me. They'll think I
outed yourself publicly in a big way.
Oh, well, it's a long time later now. I'm retired now, so I don't care anymore. But yeah, I mean, at the time, I just sort of carried on with what I was doing, and it almost didn't react. But later on, I started sort of thinking about it more.
Yeah. And as I hear that story, maybe some of you were thinking the hand of God reached in and pulled her back. But as you know, those of you who are part of the community know that my name for God is joy. And so all of us are joy and expression. So we could say it's the hand of God, but these different expressions of joy come at different levels. Yeah. And in this case, I believe that was joy as an angel reaching a hand in, defying the laws of gravity, because you were meant to be here for another few decades.
And actually, more recently, when I think back on it, there's a sort of reassurance in the fact that, there are times when I think, oh, what's the point of me being alive? I'm not doing anything useful. And and then I kind of think, well, wait a minute. If that was true, then they would have let me go just then. So it has a sort of reassuring effect.
Yeah. beautiful point for all of us that there's Sanaya saying, all of you don't understand that one moment of saying a caring word to one person can have ripple effects far beyond anything that all of us realize. So
Yeah.
it's not just the big moments when you know you've made a difference through service to the
Yeah.
whole, but every moment by moment that makes a difference. So thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you.
I don't want to keep Jill on the camera, but I do want to share my Brighton moment. Brighton being a town, is it, in England? But it's not the beach. I know that. I was doing a reading for a woman. I won't say where it was because I think I do have permission to share this. I was doing a reading passing through Santa Fe, and I just met her, and she came to my RV for the reading, and I brought through her father. And everything that he said was apologetic for how abusive he was and how lack of love that he showed. And I silently said to him, it was very clear it was him. She acknowledged, that's my dad. I silently said, can you bring back a positive memory? And he said in my mind, Brighton. So I said, well, your dad just said Brighton. Now I apologize to all of our British followers because I'm about to curse. I didn't know it was a curse at the time. But my client, when I said Brighton, she said, bloody hell. And I said, what? And she said, my memory of my father from Brighton is the only time he was ever loving to me. He took me to the beach. We walked on the beach hand in hand. I felt so close to him. And look at that, everybody. Here's Dad comes through with an apology for his lack of being able to show love. I ask him, can't you share something positive here? And he gives that one moment that causes such a reaction in my client that she cursed, but that was really just this burst of emotion. So, trust me, our loved ones know what we need to hear. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, so back to talking about angels. I see Stephanie in the waiting room. Come on.
Hi.
Yeah, Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Great. Well, share your angel story, please.
Okay, so this was a long time ago. My children are grown now, but they were small. So I have 3 small children, and I was married at the time. So my husband, myself, and my 3 small children lived in a duplex. So our bedrooms were upstairs, and everything else was downstairs. And so we all went to bed for the night, which I thought. So we all went to bed. My kids had their separate rooms. Me and my husband had our room, and unbeknownst to me, my husband got up and started cooking in the middle of the night, and I didn't know it, but I only knew because while I was asleep, somebody was calling my name, like very aggressively, like Stephanie. And basically my body was moving and I was being pushed as if someone was trying to wake me up. Wow. And literally my body was just like, doing like this and moving, and someone.
There's that hand of God again.
Yeah. So I finally woke up, because the person wouldn't stop nudging me and calling my name. So I finally woke up, and the house was full of smoke. Like literally, like all upstairs was full of smoke. Mm-hmm. And my husband was still dead asleep and my children were dead asleep. So I know for a fact that it was an angel. I know for a fact because like my name was being called very loudly and aggressively, and my body was being pushed to wake up. Oh. And we would and the kitchen downstairs was on fire. Oh. It was on fire. But luckily, like the way the house was set up, as soon as you go down the stairs, the door is right there. So we just got the kids and went out the door, and of course, called the fire department and everything. And they actually had to give us oxygen because it was a lot of smoke. So wow. Yeah. Wow. So I have I'll never forget that.
I'll
never forget that. Yeah.
And I'll bet you, I'd be on my knees giving thanks.
Yeah. I've had a lot of angel encounters. However, that was the most. Yeah, that was a blessing. That was a blessing. And it was just so amazing that whoever woke me up.
Thank you, angels. Well, we are grateful you are all still here and have watched your kids grow up and all continue safe. And asking the angels to keep you safe still.
Yeah, thank you for letting me share. Actually, one of my children, she's supposed to be watching right now, and I don't think she ever knew that story. So,
What's her name?
her name is Rihanna.
Shout out to Rihanna. Thank you so much for inspiring all of us.
Okay.
Right.
You too. Thank you for bringing me on. Take care.
Bye-bye. Oh my gosh. I love these stories, don't you guys? You know, and in the past, some people might say, oh, that was a coincidence, or oh, the smoke woke her up. Yeah, we can always think that. Anybody watching the show may think that. But when you hear these and feel the energy with which they come and celebrate what we know in our hearts is true, because the heart is the bridge to the soul. Again, the angels celebrate that we come to know they're real. All right, let's go to, who are we going to bring in next? I'm going to go to Dale over here. Hi, Dale.
Hi.
Welcome
How
to
are
the show.
you?
This.
So, my story is about my husband, who is actually in a care facility now. But this happened 6 years ago, and he was acting irrational and he out of character. And so one day he had been working outside and he came inside and he was just so irrational. He was blaming me for things that didn't happen. He was criticizing me. He was just doing crazy things. And I took it personal and not thinking that, something's wrong with him. And so then he went and he even said, I'm going to commit suicide and just on and on. And so he went back outside and I just was beside myself. I just fell to the floor and was sobbing. I just didn't know what to do. You know, blaming myself and everything else. And when I picked myself up above the TV, I saw an image of an angel. And at that point, I knew I was being helped. And I also got the message, you need to see a therapist. And that's
now.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Dale sent me the picture. I want to see this. This is so cool. Yeah, there we go. I'll make it full screen so y'all can see it a little better. This is her TV, and above it, she had the presence of mind to grab her camera. Look at that. It's not just a light reflection. To me, it absolutely, I can see a face up here and the light right where the heart would be. Looks a little like Mary, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it looked like Mother Mary to me.
So you heeded that advice and saw a therapist?
Yeah, so I called a therapist, and the therapist that I ended up with, she worked, he was, the therapist that I worked with dealt with dementia patients and with dementia families. And she knew from the signs that he must be suffering from dementia, even before he was diagnosed. And he was later diagnosed with dementia. So,
wow. Yeah. And it took a moment of surrender and collapse and that was the moment when you most needed to know you're not alone in this and
exactly
get some help. So what a beautiful message. Wow.
Yeah.
The timing of it is truly divine. So your husband's with you, but in a care facility. And I hope that you have remembered that the angels are with you throughout this journey, because I know how challenging that is.
Yeah. And, he doesn't speak that much anymore. And I know that he's kind of in and out. So, I get the feeling also from him that he's kind of in between here and there,
No
the
doubt.
messages that I've been getting. So,
yeah, I have dealt with enough people from across the veil who come back who had dementia, and they say, I was already getting used to the other world and my soul was perfectly fine. So I'm glad you know.
Thank you for that.
And thanks for coming on, and practice talking to his soul in meditation, okay? Because it'll be the same now as when he passes, soul to soul communication. All right?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing with all of us. Beautiful. Okay, I have somebody else that I'm going to share photos with somewhere near the state. And Mike, that's you, so don't give up on me. We're not going anywhere. Next, we have, as we're talking about angels, we're bringing another Lisa on. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Suzanne. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yay. Well, what's your story?
You've been an inspiration to me from my spiritual journey. And my story starts back in 1996. And we lived far away from our family. We lived 3,000 miles away. We lived in Oregon, and our family was in New Jersey. And I was homesick. I wanted to see my mom and dad. And I had a 3-year-old son, and we could not afford a plane ticket. So I decided my bright idea was to take a bus, a 5-day bus ride from Oregon to Pennsylvania, where my parents were going to pick me up.
With a 3-year-old.
With a 3-year-old. I had no idea what I was in for, but I had good intentions. And he was very well behaved. It was about 2 days into the bus ride. We had a very disgruntled passenger, and I got a little scared. They ended up making the passenger get off. I called my mom. This was back in the day when there were payphones. So I called her, I did a collect call. And I said, Mom, I think I'm going to have to take a bus to go back. I can't do this. Thomas is, all over the place. He's trying to move on the bus. I'm scared for my safety. And she said, Lisa, I am praying for an angel to bless you. Keep coming. And I said, okay. And so I got back on the bus, and a lady came on right after that, sat next to me and said, do you mind if I sit here? Is this seat taken? And I said, no. Very angelic. Her skin was so perfect. She was an older lady. I just was shocked by her beauty. I mean, and so she sat down, immediately started talking to my son, Thomas, who at age 3, they kind of have, like, they want to be near mommy. And he was so open to her. He sat on her lap. They started talking. She held him. We talked for a few days, and she helped pass by the time. She was going to visit family. She had lived in Nevada for many, many years. So we got talking. My cousin happened to live in the same town that she lived in. So we were talking about the town. And
what a coincidence.
Yes, it was crazy. So I just love this lady. We exchanged phone numbers. We exchanged addresses. We were going to keep in touch. And so she got off the bus. She had her stop was like 2 stops before mine. And so she got off the bus. I said goodbye. I hugged her. I thanked her for helping me with my son. And I got off the bus and met my parents. And I said, Mom, you're never going to believe this. I met this lady, and I'm like, talking like crazy. And she goes, I'm not surprised. I prayed for an angel and you received one. And I said, well, I got her phone number. I got her address. And she goes, great. I want to send her a thank you card. So I said, well, I want to keep in touch with her too. So fast forward a few weeks later, I wrote a letter, sent it. It came back, returned to sender. My mom said, well, I'm going to send her a thank you card. So she did, same thing happened. So then my mom said, well, I'm going to call your cousin. She lives right in that town. Because I tried to call the number. There was no such number.
Of course there was.
So now we have my cousin confused. And my cousin goes, and she's like looking for this street. She's looking for this complex. So she starts asking all the people in the area that they said, we've never heard of this street. We've never, ever heard of this lady. I started looking up all her information as best as I could. This is before we had all the technology we had. Yeah. Never heard from her again. And we just, it was amazing. I feel blessed to have been touched. I really believe angels walk among us. Yeah. And I still remember her face to this day, back from 1996.
Oh, I just heard from my guides, you can trust this. This is really hard for our human sides to believe, but I've had my own experience with Archangel Michael telling me evidence of how he showed up when a man was going to fall asleep at the wheel and sat in his car, left his phone number, and then the note wasn't even there. So I love your story. Even if you don't believe in angels, it makes the characteristics of an angel anybody to sit with you for 3 days and help your 3-year-old.
Yes.
Truly, all facetiousness aside, it's a beautiful story. And I thank you for sharing it with all of us.
Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Oh my gosh, are we starting off our day on a good note or what, everybody? My goodness. I want to, before we bring on our next guest, because I got to line up my slides here, because our last guest here has some slides that we're going to just leave you with a really big wow. So don't go away. There's definitely a no other explanation moment from Mike when I bring him on, but we have a couple more guests, or one more before him. Before we do, if you're enjoying the show, let me bring this up here. Click subscribe, please, and then the notification bell so you find out when we get new videos, which I post midweek, and reels and all that. And just a couple public service announcements here. If you're enjoying the energy here, it's not just me, everybody. It's Spirit for sure, and this community. I'll be in person for a full weekend at the Omega Institute in July. The energy at those events is off the charts, and the grounds and the energy at Omega in upstate New York is also awesome. Go to my homepage, SuzanneGiesemann.com, scroll down to highlights if you want more information about that. You'll also see that I'm leading a cruise for 12 days this September. There are several hundred people already signed up. I was telling somebody last night that no, we don't take over the whole ship, but everybody on the ship notice, because we wear these lanyards that say we're part of the Awaken Way group. And people in the elevator will stop us and say, who are you people? You're so loving. You're so kind. You're so nice. And that's just because we're all on this path together, and we know we're souls, and it's all about celebrating that. Oh, I don't want to give this up yet. Don't look at the screen yet, everybody. I don't want to give away the story that's coming up. I just wanted to share with you those opportunities to meet in person. I have one more guest, two more guests here. Diane, I'm going to bring you on the stage.
Yay.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Hear
It's nice to meet you.
Story. Yeah.
I'm having trouble with this. I'm not used to being on this way. So
Just
I
go ahead and talk.
Okay. Listen, I'm really glad to be on your show because I've given your book to so many clients, and it's just nice to be able to be with kindred spirits, the collective consciousness, you know.
It's
I spent 4.5 hours with Sue Morter yesterday on her show, and it's just, again, give her a plug. It's just so wonderful.
On her show Friday. How about that?
That's great. Anyway, my story is I was skiing in New Hampshire, where I live, and it was really icy. Oh my gosh, I got off the ski lift and went down this trail, and I must have been going 90 miles an hour. It was so fast. And, you know, I'm an avid skier, but I couldn't get an edge. I couldn't stop. Skiers out there know what that's like. It's not like skiing in Colorado and Utah.
Oh.
And so anyway, I fell and hit my head so hard. And I didn't know. The next thing I remember was there was about 6 people around me just telling me, you're going to be okay. Don't worry. Someone's gone for ski patrol. I'm getting them too. And so it doesn't get old. And so anyway, I just kind of like was in a daze, I guess, and my friend who I was skiing with came up behind me. They had fallen too and said, Diane, that was a bad fall. Are you okay? And I said, yeah, but where did the people go? She says, Diane, there was no one there.
Oh.
And they were right behind me. There was no one there. They were there. And I mean, I just felt the embrace, and it felt the loving comfort. And just this, you know, and then to just poof, they're gone, you know, and they were people. I mean, I couldn't tell you what they looked like, or I just know that it was the embracement of them. And I knew I was going to be okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, again, skeptics hearing this will say, well, she hit her head. She's imagining it. But what is this life about? The personal experience. Nobody can take that away from you. What did that experience do for you, Diane?
It reinforced that we're not alone. I mean, I had an imaginary friend at the age of 3. And by the time we're programmed out of that, it's like the kids are not that far away from the land of the dancing trees, if you know what I mean. And I just like, you know, I think sometimes we're so programmed in our ego. We have to go beyond the limits of our human mind, you know, to be able to embrace what happens here.
Yeah.
You know?
Awesome. Well, great story. I'm glad you're okay from the skiing accident.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to tell you, I was on Dr. Sue Morter's show talking about Awaken Living. And
I watched you.
Oh, I have my show, but I haven't yet shown up on her show. We just recorded it. But if you were on her show, I need to know, what do you do that got you on the show?
Well, I'm a therapist, and but this was an online yesterday on Zoom. So I spent 4.5 hours, and it was just, I was recalibrating, if you know what I mean.
Ooh, don't we all need that?
We do. We definitely do. And, you know, just I'm going to try to get on your other show when you talk about angels. My mother, who I don't know if you can see here, she was definitely an angel in our lives. There she is. And she was, I got the mom that I think God intended for everyone. She was just pure love. And I have stories that I will sometime, you know, maybe at the next show, be able to share with you about people coming back and being able to share.
We'll be doing shows about
That's good to hear.
ones. Yeah. Thank you so much, Diane.
Thank you.
And you know, not all of us had that mom, but we chose our parents. I've had some stuff come up this week that is mom stuff in a big way. I was triggered yesterday in a way that I haven't felt in a long time, so knocked off balance. And when you live in this state of peace and tranquility that we in the Wake and Wake community do our best to cultivate, when we're knocked off balance or triggered by something, it's so obvious through the contrast that now we see this as an opportunity to something to next dig into. So trust me, I'm going to do that. But I didn't have that mom that she's talking about. And I know a lot of you had something that we would even call much worse. And yet we signed up for those relationships because they bring us to this moment right here, right now. So I love that Diane had that angel of a mother. And those of us that didn't, they're all beautiful lights underneath the narrative, the story. All of us equally gorgeous souls, beautiful. And I'm not talking about in human beauty. I'm talking about the light, the energy, the full coherent state of being a soul. And angels just take that to another limit. So I see one more guest in the waiting room. That's Mike. You've been waiting a while. Thanks for your patience. I understand you're a baby man.
Yes, ma'am.
Cool.
I was a bosun's mate. I drove those boats.
Did you blow the bosun's pipe?
Absolutely. I still have my pipe today. I don't have it with me right now, but my twill may be a little bit ruffled over the years.
That's cool. All right. Well, welcome. What's your story?
So I was listening to your cast with one of the ladies who wrote a book about talking with archangels.
Deborah Schildhouse. That was
Deborah Schildhouse. Yeah, and I was taken by that, and I bought the book, and I was about 3/4 of the way through the book, and I thought she got to a point. She goes, "Well, you really need to ask, for protection." So, and I said, well, "Okay, well, I'll ask." And I said, "Well, look, I worry about my daughter. I worry about my kids." And I said, I really need you to keep an eye on, on her and just, protect her. And I said, and while you're at it, if you wouldn't mind terribly, I said, I wouldn't mind, a no other explanation, little clue that you're really there, because that would be fun.
Protecting you too, right?
Well, yeah, he's protecting me. Well, actually, he's really protecting me with what's going on this year. This was last May that this happened. I've got, they're right by my side right now because I've got the big C word. But so I fell asleep after reading that chapter, and then I woke up the next morning and my daughter was calling me. She goes, "Dad, I'm okay." But there was an accident, and I go, "So you're okay? You're not hurt? There's nothing wrong?" I said, "You don't damage." I joke with her. I said, "Don't damage the Jenny," because my daughter's name is Jennifer. And she goes, no, I'm okay. I could tell she was shook up. And I said, "Well, as long as you're okay, everything's fine." I said, just, I said, "Well, make sure you take some pictures." I said, because, the insurance.
Quick question. Sure. This is the day after the first time you ever prayed to the angels for protection?
Well, it's not the first time in my life they've intervened.
Okay, but this prayed to protect.
It's the first time I've ever asked for a no other explanation,
No other NOE. Okay.
Yeah, I had, your NOEs I'm familiar with because I'm one of your students. But so I asked for this NOE, and she took the pictures, and I said, make sure you get really good pictures and before anything's moved. And I stayed on the phone with her, and she goes, "Okay, Dad, I'm going to send you the pictures now," because she couldn't move her car because there was just the chaos around her was just absolute. And when she finally moved it and she sent me the pictures, I saw the pictures and I was shocked. It's like, oh my God, the chaos and the carnage was just absolute with these cars around her. And I said, all right, well, make sure you get a picture after they move the cars.
Let's show everybody the carnage you're talking about. Let me change the aspect here. There. So
Yeah,
she's driving the Jeep, right?
Yeah, she's driving the Jeep. And, there's a car in front of her. There's this car beside her. And you can see how close, it is to the side door of the Jeep.
Yeah.
And then, in the next picture that she showed me, I said, well, make sure you get a good picture of the damage. And she goes, Dad, there's not any.
Look.
And I'm like, what do you mean there's not any damage? How could there not be any damage? And when she showed me that picture, I knew right there, that was the response to my, would you mind showing me and no other explanation?
He said there wasn't a scratch. We have that expression, not even a scratch. You zoom in here on that picture.
It was like it was armored.
Yeah.
There's not even a scratch.
I love that.
I'm still in shock to this day. And I still can feel that.
That's the kind of shock and awe we like. Trust me.
Yeah. Well, they're with me right now. They're actually curing me of cancer. So.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like everybody watching now and in the future to just know that same healing energy that works in our bodies flows through all of us, and with intention, we can send it. So if everybody just join me, sending a little extra oomph to Mike and anybody else that needs it. That is how it works. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
And by the way, I asked them for a little miracle this week. I said, it'd be really good. I said, if I got a score on this PSA, which is a prostate specific antigen, I don't know, 8.5 would be phenomenal. I got the test on Thursday. It was 8.5.
Oh, I love it. And I'll tell everybody that I don't believe that happened because you asked. I believe the number was put in your head and you were inspired to ask because it was already known. And it's this flow. It's both. It's both of that. You ask, it's already created. It comes together in this beautiful way. And you got to share that with everybody as an example of the flow. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Absolutely. You're welcome. So wonderful to finally meet you, so to speak.
All right. Oh my gosh, everybody, how about all these stories? I had my own little miracle just in meditation this morning. I told you I was triggered yesterday, so I asked about it this morning in meditation, which is a great practice for all of you. And I got this incredible download. I call them Conversations with Joy. Always Connected is full of these conversations with joy to show you how you can have them yourself. And when I finished, I pulled up a new email. I went to open an email to type the daily message. And what came up was an email that was in my inbox, but I hadn't looked at it in days, right on my screen with exactly what I need for the next step in this understanding what triggered me. Just phenomenal. I took a screenshot, like, why did that one come up just then? The answer is because we're helped from higher consciousness. Sanaya is saying right now, read them today's message. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Awaken Way app. I'm trying to bring up today's message. It's bringing up yesterday's. So it's free. Go to your smartphone and pull up Awaken Way. Here it comes. I'm going to need my glasses. While it's coming up, I hope you'll also try the Inspire button on this app. Really fun to pause, ask Spirit, what do I need to hear right now? You push the Inspire button and it pulls from over 6,000 Spirit messages in here. So Spirit said today, you are surprised when Spirit sends you a sign. You blink and wonder how such things are possible. Your world is not solid, dear one. It is a teeming cauldron of energy consciousness, and you are part of that mix. Every now and then, a higher order of the mix will mix things up a bit to show you that there are solutions to your challenges beyond the physical world. Every now and then, when you are open to miracles, the seemingly impossible becomes possible in the most mundane of ways, simply to get your attention and get you back into the flow of awe. Isn't that perfect? I just love how every time I do a reading, the message that I got earlier in the day comes up because Spirit knows what's going to happen throughout the day. This one, I wasn't thinking about the podcast when they gave it to me, but as we're going, Sanaya said, read it. It's perfect for today. And I hope you feel that too. And I love how it said, every now and then a higher order of the mix will mix things up. We call those angels, right? And miracles can be those NOEs that Mike talked about, no other explanation moments. And they are also the mundane moments when just the right email that you needed pops up, or just the right person says something. So I hope that today's show has inspired you to be on the lookout for the miracles, to talk to the angels, to ask for protection, to trust the process and the flow, and to imagine their loving arms or wings, their energy enfolding you, because so many of you sent stories of just feeling the loving presence and trusting that and not succumbing to the human mode of saying, oh, that's just my imagination. I spent the first part of my life saying, oh, angels aren't real. And how's that working for you, Suzanne? Right? So a show like today is meant to inspire us. It was inspired by Spirit to do this talk about angels today. We're going to do more, like I said, in the future, talking about signs from loved ones who are absolutely here. In 1 hour, I have a reading in person here with a mom with a daughter across the veil, and I know she'll be here. I know the angels will be here. It's my goal in life, my mission, to help you know that, trust that, and live your life in accordance with that knowing. Thank you for bringing your love to the show today. Thank you for all of us joining us live. If you couldn't join us live, then just subscribe again to the channel and watch these videos, because the energy of knowing is imbued throughout them. And the more you know and trust the flow, you'll come to know it's all joy. Love you all so much. Thank you again. And we'll see you back here next week.